Have you ever stopped to think that a fruit growing hidden deep inside the forest could be responsible for moving billions of dollars worldwide? That's right. Hidden in the shadows of the Atlantic forest and the Amazon rainforest grows a treasure that, despite being ancient, is still unknown to many: cocoa. It not only gave birth to chocolate, one of the most beloved foods on the planet, but also supports millions of families and is a key player in a global chain that goes far beyond dessert. What few people know is that cocoa has deep roots in Brazil, and its story is marked by glory, decline, rebirth, and now, a silent transformation that could change the future of modern agriculture. To understand the size of this impact, just look at the numbers. The global cocoa market moves more than $130 billion a year. And Brazil, even though it is not the largest producer, plays a strategic role. After all, it was here that cocoa found one of the most perfect environments to grow. The warm, humid climate, fertile soils, and unique biodiversity create ideal conditions for this fruit to develop with rare quality. But it wasn't always like this. Back in the beginning, before the Portuguese even set foot here, indigenous peoples in the Amazon region were already using cocoa in rituals and as food. They didn't make chocolate like we know it today, but drank a kind of bitter mixture made from fermented and dried seeds. When the colonizers arrived, they saw the value of that fruit and took the plant around the world. Centuries later, cocoa was domesticated and started to be cultivated on a large scale. By the late 19th century, Brazil emerged as one of the largest cocoa producers on the planet. Southern Bahia became synonymous with wealth and prosperity. Luxurious plantations, millionaire landowners, and entire cities rose around the brown gold. For decades, the region lived a true cocoa cycle, with exports supporting the economy of several states. But like any good story, this one also has its shadows. The wealth generated by cocoa attracted greed, neglect, and unsustainable practices. And it was precisely this neglect that opened the doors to one of the greatest agricultural tragedies in Brazil's history: witch's broom disease. This fungal plague devastated entire plantations in the late 1980s and early 1990s. In no time, what was a symbol of abundance turned into a synonym for ruin. Cities that once breathed cocoa plunged into economic and social crises. Entire families lost everything. But this is not just a story of losses. It is also a story of resistance and reinvention. Because cocoa returned to grow in Brazil, and this time with a new model. Small producers, cooperatives, and sustainable initiatives are rebuilding the sector based on agroforestry, regenerative techniques, and organic production. Instead of monocultures that impoverish the soil, now we see systems that mimic native forests, preserve biodiversity, and increase productivity. And that's where the transformation begins. Brazilian cocoa, especially from southern Bahia, Pará, and Espírito Santo, is conquering its place in the fine chocolate market, the so-called bean to bar, from the bean to the bar. This movement values the unique flavor of origin cocoa, the work of local producers, and sustainable practices. Today, international and award-winning brands already use Brazilian beans as the base for their most expensive chocolates. And consumers, increasingly aware, are willing to pay for it. But this turnaround didn't happen by chance. It is the result of a collective effort that united science, tradition, and a lot of courage. Researchers from CEPLAC, family farmers, and passionate entrepreneurs came together to recover not only production, but also the prestige of Brazilian cocoa. They invested in clones resistant to witch's broom, improved fermentation and drying processes, and sought international certifications. The result? A more diverse, fairer production with huge added value. And the most impressive thing is that this revolution is happening far from big urban centers, in the heart of the forest. In places where, before, everything seemed lost. Today, a new model of agriculture is reborn, more human, more connected to the land and to the future. This is the silent strength of cocoa. After all, it's not every day that a bitter fruit carries such a sweet story of overcoming. And there's much more behind this journey. In the next part, we'll explore how Brazilian cocoa is conquering the world, influencing the fine chocolate market, and helping preserve threatened biomes. And you'll discover why this little fruit may be one of the greatest keys to the future of sustainable agriculture on the planet. If cocoa used to be seen just as a raw material for cheap industrial chocolate, today it's living a new era, and Brazil, which was once a powerhouse and then fell into obscurity, is now returning as a protagonist in a completely different way. What's happening now is a true revolution of flavor, value, and identity. And it all starts with a detail many people overlook. Brazilian cocoa has a unique terroir. That's right, just like wine. But what does that actually mean? Each cocoa-producing region in Brazil has its own characteristics of soil, climate, surrounding flora, and even different cultural practices. This changes the taste of the cocoa. A fruit harvested in southern Bahia, fermented with banana leaves, will have a completely different sensory profile from one harvested in Pará, growing in the middle of the Amazon, surrounded by Brazil nut trees and buriti palms. And it's precisely this diversity that's catching the attention of the most demanding chocolate brands worldwide. Today, both artisanal and industrial companies seek Brazilian cocoa not only for its quality, but for its story. They want to know who planted it, how it was cultivated, if the environment was respected, and whether fair labor was involved. This is the so-called bean-to-bar market, which already moves billions of dollars a year. And guess what? Brazil is increasingly inserted in this universe, winning medals in international contests, being celebrated by renowned chefs, and conquering consumers in the United States, Europe, and Asia. But this turnaround doesn't happen only at the market's tip. Down at the grassroots level, deep in the countryside, a lot has changed. Today, those who cultivate cocoa are no longer just large landowners. Small producers, settlers, women's cooperatives, and traditional communities have gained prominence. And this has transformed people's relationship with the land. I'll give you a real example. In Tomé-Açu, Pará, producers descended from Japanese immigrants developed an agroforestry system where cocoa grows alongside acai, black pepper, and other native crops. This not only protects the soil and the forest, but also guarantees income all year round. It's a model admired by specialists worldwide. Meanwhile, in southern Bahia, projects like Chocosul and the Cocoa Route encourage rural tourism, adding value to the chain and restoring the pride of those who live off the fruit. And there's more. Cocoa has also become a powerful weapon against deforestation. That's right. In degraded areas of the Amazon, for example, planting cocoa in agroforestry systems has been a profitable alternative to extensive cattle ranching. Producers earn more by keeping the forest standing than by cutting everything down. And this completely changes the economic logic of the region. But it's important to say, it's not easy. Producing quality cocoa requires knowledge, patience, and infrastructure. Fermentation, for example, is a sensitive process that lasts up to 7 days and defines the chocolate's flavor. If it's poorly done, the bean loses value. Then comes drying, storage, transportation. All of this needs to be done carefully. And this is where cooperatives, universities, and technical assistance programs play a fundamental role. Today, public and private initiatives are training producers, bringing technology to the fields, creating certifications, and connecting farmers with the market. And the results can already be felt. In recent years, Brazil has stopped exporting only raw beans and started exporting fine cocoa, award-winning chocolate, and above all, stories. Because consumers want more than flavor. They want purpose. And this has an enormous impact on people's lives. The average income of fine cocoa producers is significantly higher than those working with conventional cocoa. Beyond that, there is more autonomy, higher self-esteem, and more opportunities for new generations to stay in the countryside. Young people who once dreamed of leaving now see a future in farming. And perhaps the most beautiful aspect of this new phase is the reconnection with the land. Cocoa, which was once a symbol of destruction because of witch's broom disease, is now a tool for reconstruction. Economic, environmental, and cultural reconstruction. A fruit that represents resilience, adaptation, and innovation. And the most interesting thing is that this story is just beginning. In the next part, you will get to know the behind the scenes of artisanal chocolate production, the challenges of traceability, and how Brazil can become a global leader in sustainable cocoa in the coming years. We will understand what sets supermarket chocolate apart from a bar made with origin cocoa, and why that matters for you, your health, and the planet. After all, when you choose a chocolate, you're choosing much more than a flavor. You're deciding which model of the world you want to nourish. Have you ever stopped to think about what happens after the cocoa bean leaves the farm? This is where the magic begins, and where Brazil can truly show its strength in the global market. The process of transforming that yellow fruit, which seemed so simple, into the chocolate you know is long, complex, and full of secrets few people understand. Fine cocoa, the one with a distinct flavor and superior quality, requires special attention at every stage of production. It starts with fermentation, the decisive moment to develop the flavors and aromas that make chocolate so irresistible. This process can last from 3 to 7 days and involves careful control of temperature, humidity, and even air exposure. If something goes wrong here, the final quality drops drastically. After fermentation comes drying, which must be done under the sun, but carefully to avoid burning the beans. In Brazil, small producers use everything from traditional drying yards to modern drying chambers, depending on the region and the investment. Each method brings variations in flavor, which makes Brazilian cocoa even more diverse and special. With the dried bean ready, the path to becoming chocolate is still long. Many producers choose to sell the beans to industries, but a growing trend is artisanal production, where the producer oversees the entire process from bean to bar. This ensures more control over quality and adds value to the final product. In Brazil, there are true gems of artisanal chocolate gaining international recognition. Brands like Ama, Dengo, and Nugali are examples of how national cocoa can shine in the global market. They value fine cocoa, invest in sustainable processes, and maintain close relationships with producers, ensuring that the money goes to those who truly cultivate the fruit. This short production chain brings enormous benefits. Producers receive a fair price, consumers get a superior quality product, and the environment is respected through more sustainable practices. It's a win for everyone. But even with this promising scenario, the path is far from easy. One of the biggest challenges is ensuring traceability, knowing exactly where that bean came from, who cultivated it, and under what conditions. This is fundamental to conquer demanding markets that require certifications and transparency. To achieve this, technologies like blockchain and digital monitoring systems are beginning to be adopted. In Pará, for example, cooperatives are testing these tools to record the entire journey of the cocoa, from the tree to the shelf. The goal? To give consumers more confidence and ensure that Brazilian cocoa becomes synonymous with quality and responsibility. Moreover, Brazil faces competition from major global producers like Ivory Coast and Ghana, who dominate the market with volume and low prices. To compete, the secret lies in differentiation, betting on quality, sustainability, and innovation. This transformation is also linked to the appreciation of cocoa in gastronomy. Brazilian chefs and chocolatiers have been exploring the diversity of regional flavors, creating recipes that go beyond ordinary chocolate and sparking interest and curiosity among national and international audiences. And this connection between countryside, industry, and the final consumer is a powerful discovery. It is the link that can change the story of cocoa in Brazil and, consequently, the lives of thousands of families. In the end, when you choose an artisanal chocolate made with high-quality Brazilian cocoa, you're part of this change. You help strengthen a fair, sustainable, and tradition-rich chain. In the next and final part, we'll talk about the social and environmental impacts of this cocoa revolution, future challenges, and how each of us can make a difference, whether in the field, the industry, or your daily consumption. Because deep down, the fruit that moves billions worldwide isn't just cocoa. It's people, it's culture, it's the future. When we think about the future of cocoa in Brazil, we can't ignore the challenges still ahead. Despite its enormous potential, the sector faces serious obstacles that require urgent attention and action. But it's precisely at this moment that the opportunity to turn problems into solutions lies. The first major challenge is environmental sustainability. The expansion of cocoa production, especially in regions like southern Bahia and Pará, often comes at the expense of native forests. Deforestation, improper land use, and loss of biodiversity are issues that must be faced seriously to ensure that cocoa continues to grow without harming the environment. That's why regenerative and agroforestry farming initiatives are gaining momentum. In these practices, cocoa is grown alongside other trees and plants, mimicking the natural forest. This not only protects biodiversity, but also improves soil quality and helps sequester carbon, combating climate change. Small farmers, with technical and financial support, are adopting this model and showing promising results. Beyond the environment, the social aspect is crucial. Many producing communities live under difficult conditions, with limited access to credit, education, and technical assistance. Investing in the development of these families means strengthening the entire cocoa chain. Cooperatives, government projects, and NGOs play a fundamental role in this process, offering training, support, and access to more profitable markets. But here's the part that stands out the most: the power of the consumer. Every person's choice when buying chocolate can influence this whole chain. Opting for certified chocolates that meet social and environmental standards is a direct way to encourage better practices on the ground. Today's consumers are more conscious and demanding. Companies that invest in transparency, sustainability, and quality gain space and loyalty. This creates a positive cycle that benefits producers, consumers, and the planet. The transformation of Brazil's cocoa sector is, therefore, a journey that involves all of us. It's a story of overcoming, innovation, and respect for nature and culture. A promising future depends on the union of dedicated producers, technology, effective public policies, and informed consumers. By understanding this journey, we realize that the fruit that moves billions worldwide is not just a commodity. It is a symbol of sustainable development and the appreciation of our land. So, the message is simple but powerful. Every choice makes a difference. Whether by supporting small producers, valuing fine Brazilian cocoa, or encouraging sustainable practices, you can be part of this transformation. Next time you enjoy a chocolate made with Brazilian cocoa, remember, there is much more than flavor there. There is the work of many hands, the preservation of nature, and the hope for a better future for our country. So, how about getting informed, supporting what's fair, and, most importantly, sharing this story? Together we can help build a sweeter, more prosperous and conscious world.